Thank you for enlisting in the spiritual brigade. Now let's talk about your job assignment.
Of a man in Israel who is going through the process of conversion. And the process of conversion is quite a long process. And he went to the rabbinical court that was doing his conversion. And he asked if they could please speed it up, which they don't usually do. It's a slow process because you have to really live as a Jew for a long time before the rabbinical court would feel you're ready to become a Jew. And they said, why do you want to speed it up? And he said, because he's volunteered for the army. He's going now to fight in Gaza. And if he dies, which he might, he wants to die as a Jew. Want to share miracles. It's always good to remember the miracles. It's always important to focus on the miracles. It's always important to understand that we create the miracles. As we talk about the miracles, we are creating the miracles with all the good we're giving to God. So a group of soldiers were in Gaza. This was in an area that was already conquered, and they were unlike, I guess, what we would call lunch break. They were sitting down to eat lunch, and their soldiers are all in uniform. They're all with their artillery. And accidentally, one soldier's gun went off and a bullet fired. And whoa, suddenly they see a bullet flying by and what's going on? The soldier said, it was my gun. I don't know. It just accidentally shot. It's not supposed to do that. They're like, okay, well, wow. Did anyone get hurt? No one got hurt. No one got hurt. It was a group of soldiers. They all said, okay, well, let's see what happened to where'd the bullet go? Who knows where that bullet land? They're trying to follow the trajectory of that bullet, and they see that the bullet went right into a terrorist that had come out of one of the tunnels in Gaza, armed with all these grenades to throw at these soldiers. And literally, as he's getting out of the tunnel, his body was halfway out of the tunnel. That random flying bullet hit him directly and killed him instantly. And it was just such a sense of wow. Every soldier there was your gun isn't supposed to just release an accidental bullet, but for the accidental bullet to go off and exactly kill the terrorist right before he's about to send all these grenades to this group of soldiers was just hand of God, and really feeling the sense of all these people in the world that are praying for us, that are saying psalms, that are giving charity, that are doing good deeds, that are enhancing their modesty and their interpersonal conduct, and all of these improvements. This is the arsenal God's using to create these miracles every single day. Something I just heard tonight, a woman I'm very close to, and her brother, who's in his late 40s, suddenly Thursday night had cardiac arrest and passed away. So I called tonight to comfort her and her parents. I'm close to her, and I was talking to her, and she asked me to also speak to her parents. Obviously, suddenly their son, who's 48, suddenly died, totally unexpected. It was huge shock. So I was speaking to the parents for a while. I was trying to give them comfort. And the mother, meaning this Shmuel's mother, was telling me what a wonderful person he was and how he did so much for so many. And this is what she told me tonight. She said this past summer, he went to visit Israel. And when he went to visit Israel, for some reason, he took a Torah scroll. Now, a Torah scroll is not a cheap, small item to take. I mean, I don't know how much this one costs, but minimal, talking about $25,000, $30,000. Maybe if it's tremendous bargain, maybe $22,000 or something like that. $25,000, $30,000 item. A very precious item, very holy item. He had, for some reason, it came in his head, he wants to take this Torah scroll and he wants to donate it somewhere in Israel. And he's in Israel and he's visiting all these friends and relatives. And he has a cousin who lives in a kibbutz very close to the Gaza border. It's called Kibbutz Mifalsim. And the cousin, who's in some high-ranking, very secret part of the army, the family doesn't exactly know what he does, but they know he's somewhere high in the army. And he's also in charge of the kibbutz's own security, as being very high in the army. Obviously, he knows these. Anyway, this kibbutz is not religious. They have 2 Torah scrolls, but they both are not kosher. So this man, Shmuel, he comes to visit his cousin, and he knows he's carrying this Torah scroll. And he said, I want to donate it to your kibbutz. Your kibbutz does not have a Torah scroll. Torah is protection. And he not only did that, but he put up mezuzot, scrolls on our doorposts, on every door of his cousin's house, and he gave his cousin tefillin. And this was on August 15th. They saw this on his phone. On August 15th, he did this, and he told his cousin, this will bring protection not only to you, but to the entire kibbutz. That was August 15th. On October 7th, early in the morning, this cousin, who's high up somewhere in some secret department in the army, gets a call, what's going on? He immediately tells the security in the kibbutz. He has to leave, but he puts them on alert, and he drives out. He's driving in a Tesla. Significant to the story because as he drives out, he sees right away this huge truck, called in Hebrew a tender, full of Arabs, full of terrorists, and they all start shooting at him. But he's in Tesla. They're trying to shoot up the motor. Well, that didn't happen. They're trying to shoot in the back for the gas. No, sorry, trying to shoot the gas, the motor. Well, it's a Tesla. It doesn't have gas. They couldn't reach the motor. They're trying to shoot the tires. Somehow they shot the back tires, but the front tires they did not shoot. They wounded him in 3 places. They got through the car 3 places. He got shot, wounded, but not critically. He managed to drive, being wounded in 3 places, and with only his 2 front tires, he drove past them. He got to the closest city, Ashkelon, got himself into the hospital, and then went on to do whatever he had to do in the military. In the meanwhile, in this kibbutz, the security there managed to hold off and kill every terrorist that tried to attack the kibbutz. This is the only kibbutz. There were 2 other kibbutzim in this, meaning settlements in the area, that are religious. And for some reason, the Arabs, the terrorists came, their gates were down, they keep the Shabbat, the Saturday Sabbath, and the terrorists literally, you see on the security cameras, turned away. But this is the only settlement in this area where they attacked 22 settlements. 2 were religious, they turned away. 20 they attacked. 19 they, to greater or lesser degree, massacred, butchered, took hostages, burnt. I did horrible things I don't want to talk about. This is the only settlement where the people in the kibbutz, there was no soldiers had come yet. No, nothing. The people in the kibbutz managed to shoot and kill every terrorist, and nobody in the kibbutz got harmed. I just very quickly, I heard this tonight, and I just very quickly saw, there was actually, I Googled it. I didn't have time to watch it, but the CNN did a report on this. Like, the only settlement that they held off the attackers, they held off the terrorists. It was just amazing thinking of this man, Shmuel. There should be an elevation for his soul, just saying the story of what he did, that he, with tremendous generosity of spirit, this is a very expensive item, gifted them with the Torah scroll, gifted his cousin with tefillin, gifted his cousin with the mezuzahs, all of which are supposed to create protection, the Torah scroll, the mezuzahs, tefillin, and he said to his cousin, this Torah scroll will bring protection to your entire settlement, not knowing what was going to happen. And literally it did. Literally, it is the only kibbutz that was attacked and that managed to hold off and kill the terrorists, and no one there got hurt, no one got killed, no one got taken hostage. So this all I was told tonight. And it's just amazing, and it should be an elevation for the soul of the Shmuel. And again, it just shows how spirituality, the Torah scroll, the mezuzahs, the tefillin, that is the real protection. That is the real arsenal. I also saw today 2 clips, real clips, meaning the people that were involved in the stories are talking and personally telling their stories. These clips are focusing on the power of acquiring for Jews a letter in a communal Torah scroll where every letter is sold to another individual. The Lubavitcher Rebbe started this campaign in December of 1981, before the Lebanon War, pushed it very strongly in connection with what became Israel's unbelievable military victory of destroying the nuclear reactor in Iraq on June 7th of 1981. And the Rebbe would say again and again that acquiring these letters protects the person. So 2 stories I listened to today being told first person by the people involved. So the first one, this young man is saying that it was right before the Sukkot holiday. He's from Israel, but he was in New York. He was in Brooklyn, outside 770, the hub of the Chabad Lubavitch movement. And there was someone there promoting the power of having a letter in the Torah scroll and how it brings protection. He's pushing it. The boy's walking by. He stops. He buys a letter for himself, as obviously was the goal of the man, and telling everyone how important it is. And then he's walking on, and he's like, wait a minute. If I believe in this, if the Lubavitcher Rebbe is saying these letters protect, I'm just buying for myself. So he went back to the stand, and he bought for his parents, then he bought for his siblings, then he started buying for any relative he could think of, and then he bought for some friends, and he bought many, many, many letters. This was Friday before the Sukkot holiday. A week later, Saturday. This is a week plus a day later. That was Friday. A week later, Saturday, was October 7th. The kibbutz, the settlement that probably got the most strongly hurt from all of the settlements. There were 3 that got the worst. This was probably from the 3, even the worst, is called Kibbutz Be'eri. Almost every family there suffered losses. Some entire families wiped out, killed, hostage, both horrific, catastrophic damage to almost every single person in the kibbutz. There is one family in the kibbutz that every family member that was in the kibbutz was unharmed. What's even more amazing is the family was in 5 different locations. 5 different locations. In one location was this young man's aunt, uncle, and a baby, one house. In another location was a cousin. In another location was another cousin. In another location was the aunt's sister, and in another location was the aunt's parent. 5 separate places in a settlement where every single home was taken over. Every single one of these people, he had bought a week before a letter in the Torah scroll for protection. Every single one of these people survived. 5 separate places, everyone survived. The only family in this entire settlement that every family member was intact after this horrific massacre. Tremendous power of protection of the letter in the Torah scroll. Another story, also told firsthand, speaking of the power of the letters in the Torah scroll, another young man, different young man, saying he was Saturday night on the Shabbos portion of Lech Lecha. This is 3 weeks after October 7th. He went to a little area called Meron. It's in the north. He was visiting family for the Sabbath. And Saturday night, he went to an army base that's right there. And he goes to the soldiers and he speaks to them about the importance of having these letters of protection in the Torah scroll, and how these letters literally protect you. And of course, the soldiers are very invested in this. It's very real, the death that they face. And he's going around and signing up, and everyone's signing up for themselves and buying a letter. Then he goes to one soldier who was also there, and he asked her, and she was like, I'm not interested. He's like, why not? No. He's speaking to her for a few minutes. She says, okay, fine. And she signed herself up. She said, and I also want to buy another letter for a friend of mine who's not here. Another soldier. He's like, where's your friend? She said, she's hostage right now in Gaza. It's like, whoa, okay. We're going to buy this letter, and this will protect your friend. She will be freed. That was Saturday night. Sunday night, that soldier, somehow, to this day, we don't know how. That was Saturday night. Sunday night, that soldier was rescued. And he right away calls up the soldier, the girl that he had sold the letters to. And he said, is this your friend? It sounds like the same name as I have the scroll. You know, we bought for her a letter in the Torah. You get a scroll, you get like a certificate. And she said, yes. She said, it's my friend. She just got her a letter in the Torah scroll Saturday night, and Sunday night she got out. So again, just enormous significance of all of these spiritual tools. They're not small. They're huge. What we're doing, the spiritual brigades, is not small work. It's huge work. And I just think we see a tremendous movement in the world. Movement in the world really to redemption. And as we see different people in the world, I couldn't believe it. CNN had this 7-minute piece clearly exposing the evil of Hamas and how Israel can't possibly have a ceasefire. And I was like, whoa, this is CNN? Like this makes no sense. This is the world moving toward redemption. And again, we are doing an important part. Every single one of us, whatever you're doing, if you're adding in Psalms, if you're adding in charity, physically, spiritually, whatever you're doing. There's an interesting story I heard today. There's a group of soldiers in Gaza. Now, obviously, when the ground soldiers, the infantry are going there, it's very, very dangerous. So what they have is intelligence. Now, these intelligence are set up sort of on the border of Gaza. It's where it's already Israeli conquered area. It's safe. And they have these tents set up, and they have all of their monitors and screens, and they have their drones that they're sending ahead of the soldiers, and the drones are picking up surveillance, and the information is coming through the cameras, and the intelligence officers are watching the screens, and if there's anything that looks suspicious, they're informing the soldiers on the ground and or Air Force above to deal with the situation. Very, very late at night. It's around almost 3 a.m, and this intelligence officer, his shift is over. And as he's gonna leave, he's like, let me just take one more look. He's very tired. He's, just studying the cameras. People's lives are in your hands. Studying the screens, 3 a.m, he's exhausted. And he looks and he sees in front of one of these groups of soldiers, the drones are catching that there's literally, Hamas is there lying in ambush for them. And he immediately scrambles to action, tells the soldiers, gets the message to them, danger, go back, don't go forward, gets the message to the air people that are connecting. This is a very sophisticated, connected air-land assault. And the people in the planes, they bomb down this area, they destroy the terrorists, and all of the soldiers, thank God, were protected. They went back and none of them were harmed. That was like 3 a.m. The next day, now we're fast forwarding like 12 hours. The next day, he's back at his post. It's his next shift. And he's in front of the cameras and he's looking, he's sitting. I don't know how comfortable the chair is, but he's sitting in a chair. He's sitting in front of watching screens. He has Bisley and Bamba, the Israeli snacks. The people keep sending food to the soldiers. So he has all these snack bags around him. He's watching screen. One of the soldiers that had been in that group the night before, they just finally came back to base. He is like exhausted, dripping with mud and sweat and everything they had gone through. So hard, so arduous. And he comes into this tent and he sees this guy sitting in front of the screens, munching on his bamba. And he says to him something like, wow, this is what you're doing. Look at me. Here I am, covered in mud, every bone aching, went through such dangerous things. And you're sitting in front of the screen, munching on bamba. And the guy said to him, gently, but he said, well, last night when I was watching the screen, I saw those terrorists about to ambush your group. Because I was watching the screens, I saw that terrorist group about to ambush you. And I was able to tell you guys to not proceed. I was able to tell the airplanes to bomb that area. And that's my job. You were safe. He's like, oh my gosh, that was you? He says, yeah, I was at the end of my shift, but I just looked one more time and I suddenly, the drone showed me a picture of these terrorists lying in ambush. You saved our lives. And the two of them hugged this dirty, filthy soldier, this officer. Why am I sharing the story? Because I think it's such a strong message of this idea that everyone has a different role, but we're all fighting. We all have different roles. We all have different things that we are doing. As I said, for some it's Psalms, for some it's charity, for some it's organizing these rallies, for some it's calling up, our elected officials and writing letters and sending emails. Everyone's doing whatever they can do. And every single one of us is important. It's not that, no, this one's the important one. We're just, no such thing. Every single person is important. Every single person is in their own way front lines. Every single person is doing what needs to be done. And together we create this enormous victory that God's going to send, that the whole world will see. It is God. It is nothing else but God. Now, if someone asks me, how can I be so sure? How can I be so sure that we're going to see this absolute victory? The whole world will know it's God. I don't want the world to give any credit to the IDF. I want the whole world to see and celebrate God protecting, God's salvation, God's destruction of evil. How can we be so sure? It's, if you look in the Bible and scriptures, it speaks of God's enemies. There are people that are enemies of God. Surely these people, these horrific terrorists, barbaric, brutal terrorists are enemies of God. Surely they're fighting him. How can we know the outcome? I want to speak a bit about this concept because I think it's very important to understand. This vision of good versus evil, this vision of this great final battle is Christian theology or Harry Potter, not Judaism. We believe all is God, including evil. Every inclination is an angel of God doing its mission. Every spiritual force of evil is a godly power. It's all God. There's nothing but God. There is no competition to God. Why does God do that to himself and to us and to his world? Because this strengthens our muscles. This forces us to actually choose him, not as the obvious, not as the default option, because of our love and belief, like swimmers, that as they're training, they wear weights. So when they're in the competition, they take off the weights and fly over the water. So part of God's plan is evil. What Hamas did is part of the human condition, a horrible, corrupt, unfathomable part, but a part. Everything God forbids, on some level, humans desire. There's some incredibly sick, horrible things that are forbidden. We say, people really desire this? And the answer is yes, some, and some more than others. And some will express it. Well, for others, it's just terrific fantasies. When the most unspeakable brutality is expressed, make things very clear. Light or dark. There are no grays. Make a choice. And people all over the world are in both directions. People all over the world are standing up for good, are standing up for Israel, standing up for the Jewish people, are defending them, are making these video clips, amazing clips, very strong, to really plead with people. Like, don't be a loser. Don't go in this direction of hate, this bottomless pit of hate. Doesn't ever help anyone on that road. If you saw the cowboy farmers from Arkansas, Montana flying to Israel to help because the men are in Gaza, darkness forces us to grow, like all movement in the world. Nowadays, we move by fighting gravity. By the redemption, there won't be any gravity, so to speak, figuratively. We're just going to be propelled by our own momentum of goodness, like now an astronauts in outer space. There's no gravity in outer space. Their movement is from their own momentum. But we have darkness, and darkness makes choices very clear. And people all over the world, Jewish and non-Jewish, are making choices. People that are cutting funding to these elite universities, they're making a huge choice. Bernie Sanders saying humanitarian pause but no ceasefire, for him, that's a huge, huge, huge choice. So what we're seeing, the evil, the darkness, anti-Semitism, that's not beautiful, but the outcome is beautiful. And maybe that is part of God's vision. Concerning another hostage, Hirsch Goldberg Paulin, he's a 23-year-old. The last he was seen, his left dominant arm was blown off by a grenade at the festival. He was being pulled onto a Hamas truck. He is a neighbor of my brother-in-law in Jerusalem, a very, very good friend of my nephew, who's also 23. And after we personally saw what happened with Yehudit and Natalie, as I've discussed here in the class, 2 hostages where have good friends that did all the right things for them and that checked their mezuzot, and one of Yehudits was not kosher and exchanged it with a kosher one, put mezuzot, put the scrolls up on the doors of Natalie's father's house where there were no mezuzot, no scrolls on the doors, and did many other spiritual things to help. And they got out. They were the first 2 hostages to be released from the 5 that somehow have gotten out, where there's some 240 that have not. So when we saw that, the power, like, it really works. Oh my gosh. The mezuzot was changed by Yehudi, was put up by Natalie's father. They got out. I said to my husband, we have to reach out to our brother-in-law, to my husband's brother, to have the mezuzot, the scrolls, in this boy's house as their neighbors. And who knows if they even are thinking to check the mezuzot now. So we reached out to my brother-in-law and we begged him to get the mezuzot checked in this boy's house. And he did. He contacted Chabad in the area. They checked all of the mezuzot. Several were defective, including on the bedroom door of this boy. So they corrected those. They replaced those. They found 2 places in the house that did not have mezuzot that could possibly. They put there. Also his tefillin, the phylacteries, also had problems. And they fixed all of those. And we know that therefore he has all the spiritual arsenal in place. The mezuzot are up, they're fixed, they're all kosher. His tefillin are all kosher. So we know that, and we know therefore we should see him, and we should see all of them back. This is the arsenal. It's actually interesting for Jewish women, just as for the man putting on the tefillin, the phylacteries, for Jewish women is lighting the candle, well, usher in the Sabbath, the Shabbos. And the acronym in Hebrew for lighting those candles is called neshek, which in Hebrew means arsenal. This is the arsenal that we have. This is a spiritual arsenal. And it's very, very, very powerful. So we should all stay focused. We should all remember that we have the arsenal. We have the real arsenal. And everything you're doing, whatever you're doing, I'm sure everyone is doing, every psalm you say, every charity you give, everything you can do, any addition in your own service of God, that you're doing to help. This is the real arsenal, the real, as they say in Hebrew, neshek. This is the real arsenal, and this arsenal creates amazing salvation and miracles. So when we see the salvation, when we see the miracles, we don't know what we did and what created what, but we know it's working. We see the miracles, and we know God's getting a lot of arsenal, all of us, all over the world. We are giving God arsenal, and God is fashioning from that arsenal miracle. We want to see complete miracles. We want to see total miracles. We want to see every hostage back. We want to see the complete destruction of evil. Absolutely. And we trust that God will do we can't even fathom what, because it seems like one of those situations that we don't even understand we don't know what to tell God to do, We can't give him good advice. But God surely doesn't need our advice, but he does need our spiritual arsenal. And as we give it to him, he takes it and is fashioning salvation.
I just wanted to throw in there. So I was talking to my best friend yesterday, and of course, where she lives, she's kind of right in the middle of all this. And poor thing, she's had trouble sleeping with, of course, all this, but she was telling me that the reports they're getting from the soldiers, the one thing that's in highest demand, we keep hearing about these fundraisers for helmets, for goggles, for vests. She's saying the one thing that everybody wants that they can't get is tefillot, the garments. And that felt, oh, thank you. Yes, tzitzit. But the garment, she was saying, that's the one thing that is in the highest demand. And it's like, this feels so incredible, so biblical. Thank God they realize, okay, the helmets and the vests, the goggles, this is useful. Don't get me wrong. But what they really need are the garments.
Yes, I have heard that from a number of people. That tzitzit, these are the biblical fringes that they want, and they're all asking for them because they know this is protection. They understand, and you're right, it's a tremendous spiritual awakening that the soldiers are saying, we need this. We need to be protected. Now we feel protected. And the tefillin and all this is amazing. Amazing. You see the soldiers sending out videos, reaching out, saying, we have everything. Please give us your spiritualities. Keep praying for us. You don't know how much we need it. You don't know how hard it is what we're going through. Keep adding your prayers. Keep adding in your psalms. Come, put on the tefillin with us. Do these things. We need it. Yes, it is unbelievable. And it is a greater awakening than we've ever seen. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Anyone else?
One of the amazing reports is about the tzitzits is that even non-observant Jews are asking for them.
Yes,
so that
absolutely.
is a great awakening.
That's exactly the point. That is why it is such an awakening. And these Jews that, like you're saying, were not until now observant, are recognizing the power. They're saying this is where it's at. This is the power. This is what we need. And we need the prayers. Please pray for us. And we need the tefillin. Please come and put the tefillin on us. We need that. And yes, absolutely. A tremendous spiritual awakening. Tremendous all over the world. In Israel, with the soldiers, with the regular people in Israel, and really all over the world. Anyone else? Anyone else want to share anything?
I have a question. My father was a World War II veteran. He had the knowledge. I don't know where he got his knowledge of the Jewish people. I mean, he told me things as a child. It was from the Torah. I don't know. I saw some of these videos when this first happened. The anger in my heart was hatred. I could literally rip these people apart who are hurting these innocent babies and elderly people. How do you get over the hate? He said the anti-Semitism coming, and I never believed it. I said, oh, that'll never happen again, Daddy. He was right. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cry. It just makes me so sad.
I think the point is that if you get stuck in hate, you're stuck. You're stuck. And right. I think you want to take that, and instead of feeling the hate, you want to move to what can I do to make a difference? So any emotion you're feeling, which for some it could be pain, for some it could be hate, for some it could be anger. We speak about hate in Psalms about hating the enemies of God. So it's not like it's a wrong emotion to have, but it's not a healthy emotion to get stuck in because it's not productive enough. The flip side of hate is love. The more you love God, the more you hate those that are fighting God. So you want to take that feeling and that anger and that pain and that hurt and that hatred and channel it into, so how do I make a difference? So what do I do? I can do something. I'm not in Israel. What can I do? You can open up a Psalms and start praying. You can make a difference. You can give charity. You can make a difference. You can say, okay, God, let me look at the laws you have for me, those 7 laws, and let me see what I can follow that I'm not doing until now. And I'm going to do this. And God, I'm asking you to take this merit and use it to fashion miracles, to protect the people, that it should never, ever, ever happen again, to destroy the evil, that they should never be able to have any power again. And that's what I was saying, that maybe we obviously don't know, and we're not claiming to know, but maybe sometimes God allows things to happen for us, for moral people all over the world, to make choices. And I do believe there are people all over the world that are making choices, because it's just very stark, good and evil. It's very, very clear contrast. Some people are making some choices, some are making other choices, but for you, we don't have to carry the burden of what other people are choosing. We just look at ourselves. So if I'm choosing God, if I'm choosing to want to do something, that's the response God wants. And a Noahide is very, very, very important to God. Every human being is very important, and every human being that makes the right choice and the moral choice. And we are seeing people all over the world who generally don't support Israel, like I mentioned before, making very loud, clear support. It's unbelievable. There's a lot of other noise that we ignore, but we ignore the other noise and we celebrate these. Why do we celebrate them? Why is it important? Because it means the world is making a godly choice. The world is making a moral choice. It's a godly victory. And that's the road to redemption. When the world recognizes God, and by the world making a moral choice, that's a tremendous recognition of God. So every Noahide is very important, and Noahide's prayers are important, and a Noahide's trusting God is important, and a Noahide's charity is important. And a Noahide saying, well, God, maybe I was a little lax on gossip or honesty or anything else, or praying to you, or I'm going to serve you more with more focus, and please take the merit and use it to protect, use it to bring back the hostages, use it to protect the soldiers, use it to destroy the evil. And that's our power. And that was the point I was trying to convey before. We are not powerless. We have tremendous power. We have enormous power. And every miracle we see, and for every miracle I'm telling you, there's someone I'm not telling you, but there's so much power we have, and that power God is using, we're giving him, and he's fashioning from it the miracles. I keep giving him advice on more miracles he should be doing for us, which is fine. It's fine to keep saying, and we need this, and we need this, and do this, but he's taking and he's doing, and I am confident for every amount of miracles and wonders and salvation we hear, I am positive there's so much more going on, behind closed doors that we don't know about. That's probably far bigger than the miracles we know. But it's fashioned from the same arsenal, the arsenal of what we are doing for God. It's creating the miracles we know about, and it's creating the probably far bigger miracles that we are clueless, that we are completely clueless of. Anyone else? Any other thoughts? Anyone has anything want to share, Natalie?
I know I talk a lot. My other thing was, and my best friend had to remind me of this, because like you said, Darlene, it's very upsetting seeing any of those videos. I mean, I screamed out loud. I burst into tears. I know exactly what you mean. But you got to keep in mind, they were filming a lot of that for the psychological warfare, so to attack and to discourage. So don't let it discourage you. Like Cyril was saying, if it's too much to watch them, don't watch them, and just keep the joy, keep the faith in God, keep saying the Psalms and keep praying, because letting that discourage you, they just get to win again. And we don't want that.
Exactly. Which is why I didn't watch any of those videos.
Okay.
I protected myself. There's lots and lots of groups doing different Psalms. You could join groups if it's easier. You could do it yourself. Psalms are the most powerful tool we have to draw down God's compassion and kindness. And usually in a normal situation, we only say Psalms by day. But now, because there's such danger, we could say Psalm anytime, day or night. And the Psalms create tremendous protection. They draw down God's compassion and God's kindness.